We are rich and powerful, backed and funded by the greatest superpower on Earth. Plus, we have a strong lobby interest, influencing the highest echelons of the United States government. Best part is, we get unconditional aid every year, and even when we defy US orders, nothing happens. They still gotta give us that $3 bill. And we are poor, and therefore we don't deserve human rights. And even when human rights organizations try to send us aid, Israeli commandos lethally attack humanitarian envoys and kill activists working on our behalf. Not to mention imposing an illegal blockade on all of our basic human survival needs, including medical supplies, building materials, and food. And when every human rights organization condemns Israel for starving the Gazan population, they say things like, technically it's just extreme hunger. Or they'll say, it's for security reasons. Not to mention, every few years, Israel launches a high-tech murderous operation into the Gaza Strip designed to humiliate, terrorize, and punish the civilian population with what they call disproportionate violence, which is part of their tactic to mow the lawn, which serves their grand strategy of deterrence, because it's all about making everyone fear us. Actually, Hamas started this whole thing. Remember October 7th? Actually, that's wrong. Before October 7th, Israeli security forces killed 248 Palestinians, and 40 of them were children, and that was just this year. And if you want to go back further than that, we can look at the recent history of war crimes committed by the Israeli government. Operation Protective Edge in 2014, Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012, Operation Cast Lead in 2009. Yeah, but you don't mention why Cast Lead happened. Hamas fired rockets into Israel. And that was because Israel broke the ceasefire agreement they had on November 4th, 2008, while the entire world was in euphoria over the United States electing its first black president, Barack Obama. Israel used the opportunity to break the ceasefire agreement and raid Gaza and kill Palestinians. By the Israeli foreign minister's own words at the time, this strategy of breaking the ceasefire was to preempt Hamas into an attack which they could use as a pretext for a much larger invasion. The fact that you don't see that is kind of baffling to me. Well, you're leaving out a lot of context. You gotta go back further than that. To 1967? Yeah, let's go back to 1967, when Israel started a preemptive war against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, and took more land from Palestine, further enclosing Palestinians into the Gaza Strip. They illegally occupied the Gaza Strip and the West Bank in what has been formally condemned ever since 1967 as an illegal occupation in violation of international law, unilaterally condemned by the World Court, the UN, the Red Cross, the Geneva Conventions, worldwide consensus. The majority of countries in the world all call on Israel to return to its pre-June 1967 borders. Yeah, but you're missing more context. You gotta go back to 1948. Okay, let's go back to 1948. In 1948, Zionists extirpated about 1 million Palestinians from their homes and forced them to relocate to the Gaza Strip. Today, about 70% of all Gazans are considered refugees from the 1948 expulsion. This predictably sparked a war. Yes, when you have colonial powers coming into a territory that does not belong to them and forcibly removing people from their land, it tends to get violent. Yeah, but you're missing context. What about before Christ? Invoking the Bible as an excuse to ethnically cleanse a population from its territory is a baby-brained middle school argument. Biblical rights have absolutely no status in the world today. No one can say that 2,000 years ago, this is my story of what happened, therefore I get to take this land from these people. Hamas wants to eradicate all the Jews. Well, that's not true. Yes, it is. Read their charter. Article 16. Hamas affirms that its conflict is with the Zionist project, not with the Jews because of their religion. That's their 2017 charter. I'm talking about their 1988 charter. Well, the 2017 charter is the more recent one. Don't you think we should acknowledge the one that's actually relevant? They amended it for the optics. Source, trust me, bro? The 1988 charter is the only one that matters. Most of the current people in Hamas weren't even born in 1988. Hamas has never invoked their 1988 charter, and they have since amended it. Look, the fact that they amended it does not matter. Mama said no take backsies. So by that rationale, we should totally disregard the 13th Amendment to the US Constitution, which outlawed slavery. No. Yeah, we should go back to the original US Constitution with the 3/5 compromise. No. But that's what you just said. Amendments don't matter. We should always hold a people to its original charter, no matter what. Look. No, you look. You are so blatantly performing mental gymnastics in your attempt to skirt the obvious truth. Which is the 2004 advisory ruling of the International Court of Justice, which stated, 1, that the Palestinian people do in fact exist. 2, that as a people they are afforded their right to self-determine. 3, that their territorial unit is internationally recognized as the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. 4, that Israel's illegal blockade and occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip constitutes a flagrant violation of international law, and Israel must return to its pre-June 1967 borders. You put over 1 million kids in a concentration camp? Hey, comparing anything to the Holocaust is denying the Holocaust. Nothing compares to the Holocaust. Okay, well, on October 7th, Hamas is trying to exterminate us. It's like the Holocaust all over again. But you just said, we must protect ourselves. We are the victims here. You proclaiming virginal innocence and equating yourself to be the same as the victims of the Holocaust, while you indiscriminately and systematically genocide people who have been living in what has been likened to an open-air concentration camp. And furthermore, the fact that you've been doing this for decades is in and of itself a denial of the Holocaust. Hamas targeted civilians. Israel is targeting civilians right now. No, Israel is at war. Well, if that's the case, then Israel is committing war crimes. Under the principle of the international humanitarian law and summarily expressed by Israeli scholar and former president of Tel Aviv University, Yoram Dinstein, there is no genuine difference between a premeditated attack and a reckless disregard for the principle of distinction. What's the principle of distinction? Parties to an armed conflict must at all times distinguish between civilians and combatants, and between civilian objects and military objectives.